It was a preseason match like no other. No, not because Barca were wearing those neon pink and is that teal or aquamarine shorts? I'm not a fan, by the way. I've just never been a fan of teal and aquamarine. The Luis Suarez business is also hanging over the club, but even that wasn't what made this feel like a weird occasion. Instead, it's the vote of no confidence that was going on. Not at the stadium, of course, but mainly other spots around Catalonia where signatures are still being collected at a frantic pace. By the time you watch this, we may know if the efforts of Jordi Ferrer, Victor Font, and the rest were able to get enough signatures and get that total approved at club's headquarters by the deadline on Thursday. But for now, let's focus on Barca's preseason matchup with fellow Catalan but Manchester City-funded side Girona. While the second half had more questions that I would like to ponder, the first half is much closer to an 11 that we will see, at least at the start of the season. Neto in net, Alba, Piqué as the left center back, Araujo as the right center back, and Roberto, De Jong, and Busquets playing a double pivot. Then on paper, it was Trincão on the right, Coutinho on the left, Messi in the middle, and Griezmann up top, with Messi and Griezmann switching when defending. Before I start the praise, I do want to mention that what we saw from Girona is atypical of a regular La Liga side, not only because they are in the second division, but they didn't really press much outside of the first 10 minutes, but also didn't sit in a low block. Barca did see plenty of 5-3-2 formations last year, but they usually sat deeper than the medium block that Girona were mustering up. This meant that there was a bit of space in the middle of the park, aka space for Griezmann, Messi, and Coutinho to all occupy together, and room for Coutinho and Messi to get some shots off. Though I must say it was a little more complicated than that, because from the players I come out of this match praising, Trincão may be on top of that list. In the first 2 minutes of the game, he made runs in behind the defense, and was looked off in the long ball twice by Roberto before Piqué had his attempt go short. That run does not happen with any of Griezmann, Messi, Coutinho, or Luis Suarez. The runs in behind from that bunch, and actually including Alba, all come on diagonal balls. The long ball on the same flank is a tough ball to hit, which is why Roberto pulled his punches. But the pace of Trincão was certainly refreshing, and delivers the hope that this team has ways to improve and things to work on. After watching him from Braga, I'm actually more impressed with Trincão's close control with the Blaugrana than I was in Portugal. Honestly, the defenders for Girona are at a similar level to some of the matches I watched, and his close-range passing has also improved as his teammates have improved. His goal scoring at this level with so many cooks in the kitchen will be a work in progress, but I have been happy with how quickly he has adapted to some of his more experienced teammates. Coutinho got the first goal, an easy tap-in, but the pass from Messi and run from Trincão were the talking points. In the words of Ray Hudson, Messi invents passing lanes. He doesn't look for them. His no-look through ball to Trincão was a thing of beauty, and it was a wonderfully timed run from the Portuguese winger. The right center-back held him on, and a better defense may force that offside. But that run happening in the first place is the point here. Let's talk Coutinho for a second. I can already feel in my bones how much Culers are going to be debating his performances this season. He scored a goal, combined well with Messi, Alba, Griezmann, and De Jong, and looked useful. He also defended with intent. It was a fine showing from Coutinho. However, he still isn't a winger, so it's no wonder that Barca's best attacks came down the right side through the natural winger. My other worry there is that, again, no offense to Girona's right side, but Valeri and Calavera, the right winger and the right back, are two of Girona's least dangerous options. Against tougher opposition, the defensive combo of Alba and Coutinho shouldn't fill you with much confidence. All in all, though, I think the jury should remain out on the Brazilian for a while. He is reacquainting himself with teammates that he never gelled with the first time, getting used to a new manager, and technically relearning a position that he never had down to begin with. Fati is still injured, so Coutinho on the left wing could also just be an experiment. I'll try to keep an open mind. It's probably not a compliment that I haven't really mentioned Griezmann's name yet, but I didn't think he was bad. If Barca's goal-scoring chances are going to come from the wings or from Messi in the middle, that's fine. Goals are goals. I would love to see Griezmann have his chances to shoot, and I think he will, but I want to see it soon. The ball circulation was good from him, and I like the way he collected from Busquets or De Jong and moved it along, but let's get more from the Frenchman, please. Messi being at Barca this season will continue to create chatter, but part of me says that even for him, this is done. He's playing at the Camp Nou this season, and I will not question his commitment, desire, or purpose for the club. He didn't have long to train before Nastic, hence the rust, but he was back to his old self today. That goal right before halftime with his right foot? Chef's kiss. I haven't talked about the double pivot or the backline much yet, but I wanted to get the bad out of the way first. Like anybody, I have my favorites, but I cannot defend De Jong on the Samu goal for Girona. That wasn't the fault of Alba, Piqué, Araujo, Busquets, or Neto. Well, maybe Neto could have done a little something about it, but a forgettable few minutes from the Dutch midfielder. Other than that mistake, I thought he and Busquets operated well together. As Koeman promised, De Jong was the one who was more often dropping back to help Piqué and Araujo with the build-up. and it will be the job of Busquets or Pjanic or whoever the other double pivot is to not get lost in the match. I'm interested to see what happens when a team has the skill and talent to counter through the middle, because Girona was largely snuffed out by positioning and minimal pressing. That said, any other fires were ably cleaned up by Araujo, who has more than earned his spot as the third center back this season. It's a real shame that we never even got to see Todibo, and a team should have 4 center backs, by the way, but I'm really impressed with the Uruguayan again. Since arriving at the club in the summer of 2018, and credit to Pimienta on this one, Araujo's passing and positioning have both improved so much. He still doesn't play the long balls often, but with that double pivot, especially if Busquets is the one in front of him, he doesn't have to break lines. It would be helpful if he did, but he doesn't have to. He always had premium ability in the air, and his speed is top shelf, but his positioning has improved so that he can now crowd defenders off the ball without fouling. Culers can be frustrated about the Todibo and Eric Garcia uncertainty, but Araujo makes those pills a little easier to swallow, even if his ceiling is probably lower than the other two. Before that first group came off, Messi did collect a second ball from a cutback from Trincão to Roberto for the feed to Messi. Once again, Girona didn't bring enough bodies, and Messi made the spectacular look routine, the shot coming from his left foot this time. It should be noted that Roberto again started with the quote-unquote first unit, indicating that he may be the starter. Koeman clearly doesn't see him in that midfield rotation. There are already 5 players fighting for 2 spots, and the manager is putting an emphasis on building from the back, so Roberto is the choice. Semedo is better at covering defensively when Messi is playing on the right wing, but with an actual winger in front of him, Roberto probably has the edge for his superior ability to move the ball. Now for the subs in the last 30 minutes or so. We saw Semedo, Lenglet, Junior, Puig, Alenya, Pedri, Dembele, Conrad, and Braithwaite. With the exception of Lenglet and Dembele, these are your subs for this season, and it does appear that there is a bit more talent on the bench this year with a healthy Dembele, Alenya back from his loan, plus Pedri and the emergence of Conrad. As I said against Nastic, this is the overreaction group, so I'll try to behave a bit and not overstate the positive signs. Some of the things to note that I think Koeman may be experimenting with instead of going forward with were as follows. 1. Pedri in the middle of the attack instead of outside on the right is interesting to me because his skill set is so varied that he does both at a Barca squad player level. On the right, you get to see his pace and willingness to go at defenders, and that pretty cutback he likes to play at the top of the box. I think he needs a bit more experience in the middle, but we did get to see his willingness to shoot. 3 shots, none too far off, and ball movement was terrific for a 17-year-old. That was aided by the fact that Puig and Alenya were spraying balls left and right from the midfield. To note here was that they started things with Alenya on the left and Puig on the right, and it seems important to note that Puig is right foot dominant and Alenya is left foot dominant, but they finished the match with Puig on the left and Alenya on the right. Those spots seemed much more comfortable, and I'm wondering if that was another pseudo-experiment from Koeman. Through 2 preseason matches, I'm once again worried about Alenya. He's been good enough to see the field and be a regular figure in this team, but it's hard to argue that he currently sits 5th on the depth chart for the 2 double pivot spots behind De Jong, Pjanic, Busquets, and Puig. Barca's late start to the season will mean midweek matches and minutes should be available, but even with Vidal and Rakitic gone, losing one of the 3 traditional midfield positions from Barca's regular 4-3-3 makes things crowded. That's good for the team to have so many capable options, but someone always winds up being the odd man out. Not much to say about Semedo and Junior, unfortunately. I think they know they are the backups, and I really wonder if that affects their confidence. Junior in particular had one good move into the middle of the field, but gave the ball up before completing his dribble. It's still a head scratcher what happened to the player at Real Betis, and I hoped that Koeman could bring some of that out of him, so we'll have to keep that one open-ended. Dembele, meanwhile, looks like he's still working himself back. I think we're a few weeks away from starting to actually assess what the team needs from him this season, and with Fati out too, there might feel like there is pressure on him, but I hope Culers will continue to be patient. Staying on the field is much more important for at least the first 2 months of the season, then we'll worry about him and the product he's producing. And finally, let's again talk Conrad de la Fuente. Seeing the offense run through him for parts of that last 30 minutes was so encouraging. I will keep saying it until he's sent back down with Barca B. The leap he took in the last year is remarkable. Reports that now seem like hogwash said that he could have been allowed to leave back in 2018 and 2019. This season he was supposed to be a major figure for Barca B, having made the jump for Juvenal A late last season plus the playoffs. But he looks like he deserves minutes in the first team now. He's become so more sure of himself in one-on-one battles, and his improved technique with his left foot has made the difference. His positioning when the team loses the ball is better as well, and part of that could be that his teammates are better and more experienced. I went from being afraid that Conrad would only ever make 2 or 3 appearances for the Blaugrana first team in his career to feeling like he could make around 4 to 7 showings this year. Oops, is that my American bias showing again? Well, if you want to hear more about this match with a conversation that only has half of an American bias, Francesca and I will be talking about the vote of no confidence and the preseason so far tomorrow. So get that wherever you get your podcasts. And keep checking this channel for more videos like this. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications. And as always, until next time, Forza Barca.